This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everybody. We as humans crave connection to each other, connection to our community. And I want to share with you today an amazing spiritual center that's located in Asheville, North Carolina, where they connect with the community in so many different ways. And even just hearing some of these things, we all should forget about spiritual center. We all should be doing this stuff. Love the things that they're doing there. And she is the senior minister at the Center for Spiritual Living in Asheville. She is Reverend Dr. Suzi Schadle, and she joins us once again. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Glad to be with you.
Likewise. And when we spoke last, we talked about how this is not a church in the traditional sense, and I'm going broad here, but it's just a spiritual connection within ourselves, within others, within Creator, whatever you want it to be. But then learn some of the other things that you've got going on there. Wonderful. Like this should be on every corner. This should be in every community. That's my opinion. That's my feeling. And I always say freely, I don't do religion and I don't talk politics. I just don't engage in that. That's, my belief is mine. Yours is yours, whatever that is. This is more about connecting with the community in so many amazing ways. And I'd love to look at some of the other things that you do there.
Terrific. My belief is that different people find their spirituality or their connection with creation in a multitude of ways. And so what we're doing here is we are creating what we call the Community Commons at Center for Spiritual Living, Asheville. And what that is an opportunity where we do lots of other things. I mean, most people know that a spiritual center or church, if you will, has a Sunday morning celebration experience. But we're so much more than that. And there are 6 other days in the week. And so we do other things to invite people to experience their connection with creation, their experience with each other, their experience in community and in being creative in a multitude of ways. So at the Community Commons, we do things like drumming circle, collaborative art, where everybody gets some art supplies and they start a picture and then pass it on to the next person who adds something to it, and it goes around the entire circle. So everybody adds something in every person's piece of art. And then we display that for everybody else to see.
Wow.
And it's really wonderful because, I was freaked out about, I had a bad experience with an art teacher in grade school and I stopped doing art. And
So did I, by the way.
I was like totally freaked by it. And,
oh my gosh.
That's so funny. I didn't do anything. And then we did this collaborative art. I came up with this idea and I thought maybe this will be a way, if I'm collaborating with others, I won't feel like I stick out like a terrible sore thumb. And so, and I got past my panic about art. I went, wow, this was fun. I really had a great time. We did, we do similar things. We did something with poetry where we had people come and read poetry that they love or either poetry that they've written. And then to close the time together, we created a collaborative poem on a big piece of easel paper. One person comes up and writes one line and then folds the paper over so you can't see the line. And then the next person does the same thing and on until the page is filled. And then we open it up and read it. And every time I've ever done that, it comes out so perfect that it actually makes sense. And it really is a poem that's profound that we've created together.
Wow.
So those are just a couple of examples. I mean, we do other things like concerts and kirtans, which is sacred chanting and dance. We do you name it, karaoke, game night, movie night. I mean, we do all kinds of things, and whatever somebody comes up with an idea for, if they have the energy to help create it, we do that. So we really want to be a place where the greater community feels that they can come and gather for education, inspiration, discussion, connection, entertainment, whatever it might be, because I consider those all forms of spiritual living, which is what we are. I want us to live into our name, which is Center for Spiritual Living, so that we're living our spirituality, our connection with spirit and with one another as a lifestyle. I call it the lifestyle of the rich in spirit. And so I think I might create that reality show when I retire.
Go for it. Go for it.
So it's, I'm just really invested in connecting with as many people in the greater community as we possibly can to be of service and a container within which they can explore themselves and their lives and make them better. And in so doing, they become a contribution to life itself and to the world.
It would be just amazing just connecting people in any regard, but you do it in such a fun, creative way. Even when you talked about collaborative art, when you first mentioned it, I had a vision of, paint night where people get together, an artist, shows you how to paint a picture of a tree and the moon or whatever it might be, and everybody does their own version of it. That in itself would be fine, terrific. It brings people together. But the collaborative art that you mentioned, where somebody starts doing something, then it gets passed on to somebody else, and they add their little creative spin to it, just fabulous. I mean, it's almost as if this is a community center, and that that's fine in itself, but there's a spiritual connection. And I believe that maybe we should go back to what we talked about last time we get together, maybe as a reset, where that word spiritual sometimes challenges people because they have a view of religion. Oh, it's a church. I don't want to go to church. I'm not comfortable. They maybe they have different views than I do, whatever it is. That's not really what we're talking about per se here, correct?
Correct. Religion, as I was taught by one of my mentors and teachers, has a tendency to pull people apart because we get caught up in the dogma and the rules of religion rather than the feeling or the experience. And that's certainly evidenced by wars over religion, all through ancient times and up to the current moment, that people are fighting over what's the right religion, or, if you don't believe what I believe, then you're wrong. Whereas spirituality has a tendency to bring people together because it's not about the dogma or the rules or the things that separate us. It's about finding that golden thread of universal connection that you would find in all spiritual traditions, both ancient and up to this moment, that wisdom traditions, spiritual traditions often share in common or common ground in their spiritual practices, not the rules, but the practices like meditation. Most of them have some form of meditation or contemplation or prayer, where we are affirming our connection with spirit and how we want to have that show up in our lives. So there, worship in the sense of being in awe and wonder of creation, not worshiping something outside ourselves, but worshiping that creator, innovative energy that's within us and all around us. So it's really focusing on the spiritual experience and practice rather than following all the rules and hope that gets us something.
Yeah. And, I pivoted in my beliefs a little bit because of the rules, and it's just not me. I just want to do my thing. And certainly the meditation aspect of it, I've, in my journey, have harnessed the power of meditation. Whoa, amazing. It's not even connected to religion. I'm practicing my own religion at that moment because I'm connecting with myself.
Right.
Just having that moment where, some clarity, and which is amazing too. Just so many different things you offer there. It really is special.
Yeah. And we, the other thing is that we really focus on the inner authority, that the spirit, Father, Mother, God, Spirit, whatever you want to call it, it's within us and it's all around us. But we look to that inner authority, that inner guidance and inner knowing, rather than looking out to some guru or magical somebody who's going to tell us what to think and what to do and how to behave. Whereas in our teaching, what we really emphasize is we teach people how to think, not what to think. We teach people to really tune in to that inner knowing of truth and be guided by that inner knowing rather than, the latest flashy guru who sails by. That there's a constant inner authority within us to guide us in our lives, and to really pay attention to that. And knowing that spirit is within us and it is all around us. As our children's program says, there is not a spot where God is not. So it's everywhere. It's pervasive. And anyway, and that we're all interconnected. We are interconnected. We are one, and we look like we're separate, and we certainly act that way sometimes. But the reality is we all are interconnected. This humanity, this creation is all we're all a thread, if you will, in the tapestry of life. And the tapestry only comes together when we play the part of our own particular weave in the tapestry. And one of the things that we're doing as part of being, part of the greater community as well, and not just about us, is we're doing a lot more outreach into the greater community. And I try to do it in fun and creative ways. For example, not this past Easter, but the Easter before, I did a series of talks based on the spiritual principles of the Velveteen Rabbit. And the series was called Be Real. And I had a series of ways that you could be more real and authentic. And I kept telling people, I said, as part of this, I want you to bring stuffed rabbits, and we're going to fill the stage with stuffed bunny rabbits. And on Easter Sunday, they will become real. And so on Easter Sunday, the stage was absolutely packed with stuffed bunnies. We even got some that were sent to us from other states that, tuned in on our live stream and saw what we were doing and sent boxes of stuffed bunnies. And on Easter Sunday, they did become real because one of my congregants actually does therapy work with bunnies, and she had real live velveteen rabbits on that stage with us. And we packed up the next day, we packed up all the bunnies and we donated them to an organization that does work with kids who are traumatized in our community. So we had a fun way of doing outreach into the community. And last fall, we did a similar thing with the spiritual wisdom from the Wizard of Oz. And we collected shoes and socks, and we filled the stage with shoes and socks, and we played all the different characters and looked at all the spiritual aspects of that, quote, children's story. And it was a very powerful experience. And little did we know that we were going to be hit with, Hurricane Helene. And so those shoes and socks that we collected were absolutely critical for people in this community to help recover, who had lost everything virtually. And it was a fun and easy way for us to give back.
Wow. There are, in my opinion, no coincidences. There are coincidental incidents. Maybe you were just guided to do that at that time. I love what you said a moment ago, in that you don't tell people what to think. You tell them how to think. And right there, that's meditation. Hey, meditation's really good for you. Why don't you try it? It's peaceful. You get this feeling of just connection with yourself. And by the way, maybe you'll connect with a higher being. Maybe that'll happen too. We're not telling you to do it. We're just telling you might want to try meditation, breathing techniques. That's all good and important too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people get, kind of freaked out by the idea of meditation because they think they've got to sit on a pillow for like hours and days,
I get
and
it.
be still.
I did it. I get it.
And I was freaked out by meditation in the beginning because I'm pretty high energy type A person, and sitting still ever since I very first went to my first day of school has been a problem, sitting still. So I thought, gosh, I don't know if I can do meditation. And then I asked one of my teachers, I said, because I play flute, I play soprano, alto, and bass silver flutes. And the bass flute itself, I mean, you literally feel yourself vibrate when it plays. And so I asked my teacher, I said, could I play my bass flute as a meditation? And they said, oh, yeah, absolutely. And once I did that, I felt free to, because I can move with the music and the vibration. And that was what finally got me to be able to meditate in any way, shape, or form.
Wow.
I could, starting with that, my comfort zone, I guess you would say.
Sure.
Now I can be still and just be quiet and meditate.
Yeah.
It's a process, and you find your own way. You find your way that works. The movie The Karate Kid is a great example of moving meditation, wax on, wax off. I had a teacher in ministerial school who was a Buddhist monk, and he did an intense weekend of meditation with us as one of our classes. And he had us clean the entire church as a moving meditation. And then another thing that we did was walk up. We climbed a mountain, and we climbed in pairs, and we were silent. And so if we needed help or whatever climbing, we had to convey that somehow through the energy of our thought or whatever, but we had to be tuned into one another. And so it was literally a climbing meditation.
That is
and it was
just amazing.
Extremely powerful.
Oh, and thank you for sharing all of that, because I also feel that many of us gravitate away from meditation because we don't want to fail at something. And we think we're going to fail at it. So we just put it off to the side. And you could go for a walk and be in a meditative state. Wake up first thing. I do this. If I wake up first thing in the morning, I don't do anything. I just lie in bed. I meditate. It's great. Before bed, doing the same exact thing. Last night, dedicated 10, 12, 15 minutes before falling asleep. I listened to a couple of songs. I don't know. I was just in a mood, something different.
Absolutely.
But
And
it was peace.
in this day and age too, I mean, your phone is filled with apps that will take you into a brief meditation, with music or just with, beautiful moving pictures or whatever. If you're afraid of meditation, try one of the apps or try something that moves you. If it's walking or even running, there's a misconception that, meditation is all stillness sitting on your own pillow. There are lots of ways to meditate. It's really, and all spiritual practices, I believe that anything can become a spiritual practice. It's the consciousness and the energy that you bring to it. It's the intention that you bring to it.
Yep. Tell me about the drumming circle. Sound, vibration, energy, so powerful. What do you got going on there?
Well, we sometimes we have a labyrinth up in our upper parking lot, and so sometimes, if the weather is permitting, we gather around that, and we have a bunch of stumps, from the trees that we had to cut up after Helene. So we've got stumps that we sit on up there around the labyrinth, and again, there's drumming amnesty. You don't have to be an expert; just bring something, and we have extra drums and rhythm instruments. And I sometimes bring my Native American flute as well, and I'll play that sometimes, or I drum sometimes, or and we just, somebody will start a rhythm, and then you sort of come in with whatever instrument, and it's amazing. Again, it's kind of like the collaborative art and the collaborative poetry. It always works, and suddenly everybody's sort of in this rhythm that is amazing, and then, we'll do that for a little while, and then we'll stop and somebody will start a different rhythm. But the idea is that it's bringing us together in the same energy. It's bringing us into a consciousness of collaboration and community and connection. I'll give you another example. This was, I used to be the chair of our leadership council for our entire movement of Centers for Spiritual Living. And I was, as a result, I chaired several of our annual conferences. And one of the ones we did, I hired a group called Drum Cafe. And one of the evenings of the conference, we had gone, everybody had gone out to dinner, and then we came back for the evening session in the ballroom, and the doors were locked. And, I stood there and I said, we're going to open the doors in just a minute. And when we opened the doors and everybody streamed in, they found drums and other rhythm instruments on their chairs. There were, several hundred of us there, and there were instruments for everybody. And so not a word was spoken, but the Drum Cafe people started a rhythm. And then people who many have never played an instrument of any kind before started drumming along. And we went for 45 minutes with not one word spoken. And the energy and the connection and it was one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had. And then once we brought that down after 45 minutes, then Drum Cafe, talked about how this is about teamwork. It's about collaboration. It's about community, that we did that without one word spoken. Just imagine what we're capable of when we actually communicate with each other in all the ways that we have to communicate and to come together. And it was a very powerful collaborative experience for our organization.
I believe it also showed the power of energy and how
Absolutely.
we're sending energy and others were picking up on that message. I just realized, just an example, and anybody could be hearing this or watching this at any time, but tonight is a full moon, and it appears that you have a sound bath going on tonight, talking about sound.
Yes, we do. We do. One of the people in our community does a sound bath, and she's got bowls and all kinds of instruments. But
Yep.
it's really, and most people come and they bring like a yoga mat or a blanket or whatever, and they lie down on the floor, and she starts things, and it's just, you talk about meditation. First of all, you feel bathed in this soothing, calming energy. And pretty soon, you just are transported to the very, very depth of your being. You're in a place where, wow, the world could be, coming apart all around you, and you would be centered, period. It's just an incredible experience. And she does it on a regular basis. Usually a couple times a month, at different, times, so that people can come during the day or during the evening, it fits their schedule. So that's another one of the sort of community commons things that we do. And we get a lot of people that come for that. We've had to move to a bigger room.
My first foray into the sound bath, and it wasn't even a sound bath, but it was a certain type of meditation. This is about, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and a friend took me to it. I didn't even know. I was just showing up, and they started the event by hitting a sound bowl. That was it. Just one strike. Boom. It was that moment that I got the power of what these instruments do and the power of sound. It felt like a hurricane going right through me. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what that's about. Crazy.
It's the vibration.
Yeah.
Here's a little fun fact. Our skeletal system creates a natural tuning fork, which is why when a vibration like that, or when I play my bass flute, people literally begin to vibrate in harmony. That's what's happening. Your skeletal system is a tuning fork that's tuning in with everybody else. It's incredible.
Never knew that.
Speaking of that, we start our Sunday morning celebration at the very beginning of the service. We start our celebration we have 7 crystal bowls that represent the 7 chakras. And so we're aligning everyone's chakras every Sunday morning, and whoa, we live stream, so you can experience it on live stream. But let me tell you what, when you're in the room, woo,
yeah.
It's amazing.
And I'm sure you can experience it by watching the stream, because energy knows no bounds. It can travel. It can, that's why people can energetically heal others. I've had it done for me.
Absolutely.
On a Zoom. Yeah, it's amazing. How do we find you? The Center for Spiritual Living. What's the website?
It's www.CSL Asheville, and that's ASHEVILLE.org.
Fantastic. I'm getting a download here. Something is telling me, Suzi, next time bring your flute. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Just saying, I don't know.
Sounds
Love what
good.
you're doing there. What a community connection. And that would be fine in itself, but innovative, fun ways to get people together, enjoy life, enjoy creativity, the energy and everything. Thank you for sharing today. And I hope this is a
Absolutely.
inspiration for others to do the same thing, around the
Terrific.
world. Thank you. And
Thank you so much, Steve. You be well.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.